The first case we're going to hear tonight is case B15-17. Aaron, I can't pronounce that name. Rosenzweig and Jen Lin Fang. A request for special exemption for limited agricultural activity for keeping chickens and dwarf goats as per ordinance in sections 119.3, 210, and 119.8, 325. Mr. Terry, case notes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First case this evening, B15-17. The applicants are Aaron Rosenzweig and Jen Lin Fang, requesting a special exception for limited agricultural activity for the keeping of chickens and dwarf goats on their property. The property is located on the east side of Uside Drive. The planning region is New Market. Zoning district is R1. Comp plan designation is low-density residential. Applicable ordinances in this case are 119.3.210 special exceptions, 8.325 limited ag activity in the residential districts, and 11.100 definitions. The subject parcel is zoned R1 and contains approximately 1.5 acres. Ordinance section 11.100 defines agricultural activity limited as the keeping of farm animals in residential districts on lots with less than 3 acres. Apiaries are excluded from this definition. 11.100 further defines farm animals as those animals ordinarily found on a farm, including but not limited to horses, ponies, sheep, goats, bulls, buffalo, cows, steers, rabbits raised for commercial purposes, turkeys, pigs, ducks, geese, chickens, and guinea hens. The applicant is requesting special exception approval for a limited ag activity for the purpose of keeping chickens and within 1 to 2 years dwarf goats on a residential lot that has less than 3 acres. The applicant submits that the chicken coop and associated goat pens will meet the 50-foot setback requirement. The general criteria for this special exception is under section 119.3.210, and the specific criteria for limited ag activity is under 8.325. Staff requests that the board review the general and specific criteria for the applicant's request and render a decision. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. Mr. Smith, agency comments?
There are no agency comments.
Does anyone have any observations of the site visit they want to share at this point in time with the other board members?
We noticed, well, at least I noticed, that the left side of the property as you're facing the house had a lot of rock in it. Looks like a good place for goats. And the rear of the property, it all being sloped to the street, but the rear of the property is agricultural, and the neighbors seem to be, their houses seem to be pretty far away. Don't know the exact measurement, but the one on the left is, I don't remember even seeing it, it was set back quite a ways. Wood, and a well-wooded lot. So there's drainage, woods, and agricultural area there.
Any other observations of the site visit? Okay, the applicant can come forward, please. State your name and address for the record. You'll have 20 minutes. There's a little button down there to push, and it'll turn red around the thing, and you'll be ready to go. There you go. There you go.
Cool. My name is Aaron Rosenzweig. It's Rose Branch in German. We live on, our house is 6189 Viewsite Drive. It's the end of a cul-de-sac. Like you said, it's a very wooded area. Our house is 1.5 acres. The house on the right is 2 acres. The house on the left is 1.5 acres. And behind us is a horse farm, zoned agricultural. We would like to have chickens in our backyard, and they wouldn't be really visible to anyone from the front of the street. Some of the neighbors might be able to see if they really look, but like you said, they are pretty far away, and the woods do shield most of the view. I had seen that other people had asked for goats. I hadn't originally thought about goats, but since I'm going through all this trouble, and you guys came out to my house, and I figured I'd ask for that at the same time. If given the opportunity to have chickens, we would treat them like pets. We are vegetarians. We don't eat meat. These would be similar to like a dog or a cat. We would keep them clean. I don't think there would be a noise problem. We are relatively far away from our neighbors, and there's not that many neighbors. I had talked to the neighbor on the right. They said that the horse farm used to have chickens and they enjoyed them. They would like to have chickens around again. The neighbor on the left, he's not home much, and I see that it's now for sale, so I wasn't able to talk to him. But, let's see, is there anything else? She said we would like to have between 10 to 15 chickens. And they're mostly the kind that don't lay a whole lot of eggs, like silkies and other kinds of interesting breeds. We're not really so much into the eggs either. We just want beautiful birds that are fun and enjoyable with the kids. You gave me 20 minutes to speak.
You don't necessarily need to use it all.
But I don't need to use it all.
No,
So
we're fine.
yeah, I appreciate. Oh, one thing I wanted to say is that I do appreciate this kind of opportunity. I know that chickens come up in the news a lot. Even the governor of Virginia got chickens. And a lot of places make it really hard, but you guys have a very nice solution, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you not making it very expensive to apply and taking time out of your day to come even look at the lot and all that. Whoever thought about this did a good job. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All righty. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak in favor of the application?
Prior to the applicant leaving, I have a clarifying question,
Uh-huh.
if it's okay. Now, you have put in your justification statement that the chicken shed and the goat pen will be 50 feet away from residential property lines, but the ordinance requires it be 50 feet from all property lines. Can you adjust the shed back 50 feet from the property line in the rear of the ag zone also?
That would be the goat shed. That's what you're referring to?
Yes, the goat
Okay.
pen.
Maybe it's possible. I thought that was a good place for it, but like you say, it is technically 50 feet. It's not within the 50-feet marker. I thought because it was agricultural, it was okay, but you're right.
The zoning does not distinguish between agricultural and residential in those. It's property lines. So you would have to move that back 50 feet from even the agricultural property line.
Yeah, it looks like that would probably put it about center of the fenced area anyway, so it doesn't look like that would be much of a problem for you guys, but it's certainly going to make it much easier for us to approve your application.
Okay, then we'll do that. If we have goats, we'll be sure we're 50 feet from all property lines.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I asked in favor. Anybody in opposition? Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yes. Will you have any roosters?
Every chicken that's born, 50% of them are male. They're roosters. If we were to have roosters, we would be sure that they were quiet. And the way we would keep them quiet is with a collar. A rooster collar is something that fits around the neck, snug but not tight, a little bit like a sock. What happens when a rooster crows is their neck has to come out this way, horizontally. So by having a collar, it doesn't stop the crowing, but it muffles the sound a great deal because their neck cannot come out that whole way.
Well, we have that as a lot of problems people have with us approving this is because of roosters. That's the first time I've ever heard that remedy. So that's interesting. Learn something every day.
I have 4 doctors. 2 of them are poultry science doctors, and 2 of them are veterinarians that say that it works and it's humane.
Okay.
I have a question. You said you wanted to have, 10 to 15? Is that what the number was?
Correct.
Okay, now, if there are offspring and you get over that amount, how do you intend to keep it at that level, or do you want to let it grow infinitely?
Well, I don't want to let it grow infinitely. When a chicken lays an egg, it takes 3 days of actually sitting on that egg before it starts to form the embryo.
Okay.
And it takes a little over 20 days of constantly sitting on that egg before it becomes a baby chick.
Okay.
So long before any of that happens, we will have taken the eggs.
Okay.
So they're not going to grow out of control.
Okay.
My son has chickens, and nature thins his herd.
I have.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes. You mentioned you were intended to have goats in 1 to 2 years. How many?
Maybe at most 3.
3. I guess this other question is for staff. Is there any limitation on the amount of chickens or goats that can be kept on a certain property size?
The specific criteria does not have a limit for those. And property size, if this would be an agricultural zone and even be 1 acre, there would be no limit. I mean, limits are sometimes placed on the state as far as larger groups of farm animals go, but there's no specific limit in accordance with this activity. And that's why I think this is a special exception that neighbors get to comment on, and if there's issues that they would be having, they would generally come in and speak to that interest.
Okay.
If I could speak a little bit about that, because it is something people don't know a lot about. Well, chickens, if you have 10 chickens, normal-sized chickens, the amount of manure they make is equivalent to one 40-pound dog. To put it into perspective, how much manure and stuff is being generated. Of course, dog and cat manure can't be used as fertilizer for food meant for human consumption, but chicken manure can be. So it's, all things being equal, 10 birds don't have any more environmental impact than one 40-pound dog. Plus, their poo is not toxic.
Mr. Miller, any questions?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What experience do you have in raising chickens?
We currently live in Gaithersburg, the city of Gaithersburg proper, not the greater Gaithersburg region. And we have 6 chickens in Gaithersburg.
So you've been raising them for a while?
A little over a year. We have 4 hens, 2 roosters.
And the city of Gaithersburg allows roosters?
It's an interesting question. My particular situation there is that all my neighbors love the birds, but we had one, he's not a next-door neighbor, he's someone who lives in the community, who does not like the idea of chickens. And he would photograph my children playing with the birds, give them the middle finger, drive away, constantly call animal control. That's why we started looking for another place to live. In our case, once they realized, one of the animal control staff saw that 2 of the birds looked like roosters, it became a problem. I asked them to check to see with my neighbors, do they sound like roosters? And they didn't want to do that. And all my neighbors came and said they never hear anything. They came to City Hall, and it became a problem, unfortunately. It shouldn't have been, because we were always responsible. There was never any noise. There was never any smell. But that's what happened. In 2010, someone very similar to me, living in Gaithersburg, not in an HOA, had a neighbor that had a phobia of birds. And they tried to ban chickens in Gaithersburg. And a lot of people came. It became a big deal. They said it was the biggest thing that ever happened in Gaithersburg. And what they ended up doing was leaving the law mostly intact. And they changed the verbiage to say, it used to say you cannot have a crowing rooster within 200 feet of another residence. They changed it to say you just can't have roosters, because people were afraid of the noise. However, that particular person didn't even have a rooster. It was just a fear of possible noise. And in our case, and if you watch the videotapes, the director of animal control admits there was never a problem with noise at our house.
You had 6 chickens, you
Yes.
said. And was the space that you were keeping the chickens in the backyard similar to the space that you're proposing here? in
No,
size?
we only have a quarter acre of land in the city of Gaithersburg. This house in Frederick is 1.5 acres.
But the chicken coop, we saw the chicken, the stakes where the chicken coop were going to be. That looked pretty small to me. And you're going to put 10 to 15 chickens inside that coop?
Yeah, the area for chickens to sleep does not need to be very big. And then we will remove the wooden fence that you saw and put up a larger fence so they have room to run around during the day.
How big would that area be?
Well, it depends. It could be the same size as that wooden fence or maybe slightly larger.
Okay. So you wouldn't have a problem if we would approve this, that we would put a limit on the number of chickens that you would have?
I wouldn't have a problem.
What about roosters? Would you have a problem if we said no roosters?
Unfortunately, I would have a problem because as hard as you try, like even when I did it, I said I only wanted hens. You can't make that 100%. There are mistakes we made. It's hard to sex chickens. And since I can keep them responsibly, I don't see any reason to have to kill them.
The switching from chickens to goats, Mr. Smith was addressing, your goat pen is shown to be 25 feet off the property line on your sketch. You meant that to be 50 feet, correct?
Yeah, I had read what he talked about, having to be 50 feet away. I thought I would see if that was hard and fast. I thought maybe because it was agricultural, it wouldn't matter, the lot line that it's close to. But since that is a problem, if I were to have goats, I would make sure it's 50 feet away.
Yeah, I mean, it looked from the area that you had marked off back there, I didn't see any issues with you pulling the pen back.
Right.
I don't see any of your neighbors here objecting to what you're doing. Did you? And you said you talked to them?
Well, I talked to the one on the right. They're the foresters. I tried to talk to the one on the left, but whenever I went to his house, only his contractor was there, renovating the house.
But there's a sign outside of this hearing that's been out there for 30 days, I guess,
Yes.
and there's no one here objecting to this at all.
If I may, in addition to the sign, staff sends letters to all the property owners touching their property and directly across from their property. So they received mail notification about the case as well.
That's all I have.
All right, any other questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I have one, not from the applicant. This one goes back to staff.
Okay.
In the event that the socks didn't work, maybe the roosters figured out a way of getting around it. What would the county do if there were ever any noise violations or complaints?
Well, once the special exception is approved by the board, then that's the law for that property. So I would not be aware of a remedy that there would be for the roosters.
Okay.
If I can talk openly about that. I'm not an expert, but I've kind of become one under circumstances. When you look at it, a dog, a 40-pound dog, barks at 90 decibels. Mm-hmm. Roosters at their loudest are also 90 decibels. Mm-hmm. I think the issue is that it's a sound that we've forgotten as a people. We're not used to hearing roosters. And I think if the owners of roosters were more sensible about it, there wouldn't be problems.
Yes, but when my dog used to bark and disturb my neighbors, he came in the house. I wouldn't be bringing my roosters in the house.
Well, we do. When we had a really hard cold spell this year, I felt like the heat was not enough in the coop. We brought them all in, and they all had diapers. I can show you photos. You wouldn't think there's such a thing as diapers, and they're not cheap. They're like $20 a piece. You buy them online. They look pretty, come in all different colors. They're fabric, and they have a harness. So it fits over. They've got a spot on the back if you wanted to walk them like a dog, which I've never done. But they've got a hook on the back. The back part of it that catches the poo has a vinyl.
I think that this is relevant.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, we treat them like pets.
Okay.
We do bring them in when there's issues.
Okay.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay. Any discussion among the board members?
No.
I'm inclined to vote for this, with conditions that we have the number of chickens would cap out at 15, which I don't think you have a problem with. And the number of goats would cap out at 2, you say?
3 if possible.
3, okay.
Any other discussion?
And could we make a provision in the motion that if the roosters become a problem, that you either take care of the problem or your zoning is revoked?
I don't think we can do that.
Mr. Shamel says no.
Do I need to word it a different way?
No.
No.
Any other discussion? Mr. Schmel, do you have something to offer?
Only if you want to hear it.
Okay, so we can move forward.
I understand. Under the ordinance, under the special exception provisions of the ordinance, if you make a condition on the granting of a special exception and that's violated, the special exception can be revoked. If you give me a moment, I'll take a look at that. I was looking at something else.
So if the motion is conditional on the roosters not disturbing the neighbors?
Well, that would be a difficult
Yes.
condition to objectively verify. All right.
But out in that area, they could probably shoot the rooster and be okay. Your neighbor. If it's too noisy, shoot them.
So,
Thanks for offering.
okay. You guys are good. You going to be here all week? Section 1-19-3.210, subsection D, provides that a special exception approval may be granted in accordance with the general and specific requirements enumerated in this section. The Board of Appeals may, in addition to other requirements imposed under this chapter, and is hereby authorized to, add to the specific requirements any additional conditions that it may deem necessary to protect adjacent properties, the general neighborhood, and its residents or workers. Violation of such additional conditions, when made a part of the terms under which the special exception is granted, is a violation of this chapter and may be grounds for termination of the special exception. I mean, generally, in terms of zoning enforcement, we just work to get compliance. We would work with the owner to do something to either find foster homes, adoptive homes for the roosters, or some other method of eliminating the annoyance to the neighbors. In terms of volume, the noise ordinance would apply. So
I think the applicant recognizes that could be troublesome to his neighbors and proactively has already come up with something that I've never heard of before that could resolve the problem. So, we're anticipating a problem that may not be there. Okay, any further discussion? Would anyone like to make a motion? Anyone?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Kennard?
I'd like a motion.
Bower Sox was going to make a motion.
No.
Case B 15-17, the applicant being Aaron Rosenzweig and Jen Lee Fang, requesting a special exception for limited agriculture activity for the keeping of chickens and dwarf goats. Having met the necessary qualifications under Ordinance 119-3.210 and 119-8.325, I motion that we approve the request with the exception, or with the qualifications that they have no more than 15 hens and 3 goats, and that they
I think that would be 15 chickens.
15 chickens and 3 goats. I motion that we approve that.
And I would like to add that also that's subject to moving the pen, that additional 50 feet. Right there, it does show that it's 25 feet.
Right, I think he's agreed to that through testimony.
Yeah,
so
we want
I
to
think-
put that in stipulation.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Mr. Kennard's motion as amended by Mr. Robinson regarding the setback, seconded by Mr. Bowersox. We have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have fun with your chickens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next case tonight is Case B 15-18, TMGN LLC and Robert Kropp, request